We've already talked about it. To push 2 of 5 games in their first best of 5, come out victors, and then 3-0 against OG, it is really hard to sit here and say things that they haven't done wrong.
Yeah, I think the tempo of their gameplay and the speed, some of these early games they've had, some of the dominant performances, I think are like Liquid of old. And when you think about that team, it was always like they will get to the finals, they will be top 3. There was never a question, it was just almost a fact. And I think while they're not quite at that same level, they are getting back up to that state, and I think people are starting to believe again. There's sort of that re-instilled faith that when you see Nisha on a team, they will just be in the finals. It's just, it's just fate.
I feel like Liquid's had some calibration throughout this slam, where it's like they're trying to find what is Ace's role, like what type of offlane does he want to be, how are you enabling like the hero pool of Mickey, even Nisha to some degree, but I feel like the last series, like they've locked it in. Like they know exactly what they want, they know how to punish certain people, and of course, coming into this, it is going to be a battle of like Nisha shining in the last playoffs. Can Niku step up to that? Can he, just survive the lane in Nisha in the form that he's currently in?
It's like also to me when I look at Liquid, I think people weren't too sure, myself including, how are they going to mesh together? Of course, they had a lot of changes. They brought in Ace and Tofu. Tofu had to do a lane swap, but I think they've all like proven their individual skill and excellence in this tournament already. But not just that, I think now it's starting to click as a team, like starting to understand how do we want to play, how do we want to draft, how do the heroes function together, and this is really what is making them, I think, look so dominant in this tournament so far.
I mean, their drafts just feel better.
Yeah, they do. They really, really do. There was a real problem with that earlier, I think, where you look at some of their heroes and they just didn't mesh well together, and I think that's a huge part of it.
Yeah, and my boy Boxi, I know I talk about it a lot, but this guy, you need to keep your eyes on him. Like, the heroes he has played in the playoffs, because this is for the entire tournament, but in the playoffs, he has only played the melee bros. And the funny and interesting thing is too, like, he mainly sticks to like the Tusk and the Tiny, but when those heroes are banned or when those heroes are picked, like he will always find like, he will find the backup. Yesterday, he had the Marcy. In other games, you have the Earth Spirit as well, where it's like, it's kind of interesting because if you take the Tusk and Tiny away, like the Earth Spirit himself is pretty good at saving from those heroes as well, because like you can see it here. And in these games, this is the only times they actually played Earth Spirit, because Earth Spirit +4, it's not good. No one else really does it, but they like find these ways, against the Tusk, you can then save. If they take the clock, you can then also save from the clockwork. So I think Team Liquid have like a very interesting thing where they have their best heroes, but if you contest them or have something against them, they have like the next level. And I think that's really when you're drafting is like the best it can be. When you're ready for what they can do against your heroes and you even have the answers to those.
I mean, the Earth Spirit itself is just so refreshing to see because he's playing on the repositioning of the hero, but also it's not an Earth Spirit game where he has no one to play on. Like in all of those 3 drafts, like there's a support or a core where he can go to and go, I have purpose in the early game. And I feel like Earth Spirit to me, it's a hero that's been just lost for so long. And now Boxi bringing it back, knowing that he is going to be this map playing 4 hero in the melee role, then I would argue Na'Vi needs to maybe think about that, be ready for his rotations. But again, it is just a treat to watch. I love seeing these type of 4 players in the game.
Yeah, it's honestly super exciting, and it reminds me of like the old days with Crit and Jarex playing this hero. Like when I think of Earth Spirit 4, I think of those 2 players specifically, and I think Boxi fits in with them in terms of this like killing playstyle, hunting for kills. You're always the one starting fights. This, we talked about it, this dog on the leash mentality, and I think he very much fits in with them, and it's like a blast from the past. And whenever people like sort of dig back to old heroes, old concepts, I think that's always like very refreshing and just cool to see because it reminds you of like older areas in Dota. I think that's awesome.
But there's a mix when it comes to Liquid. You're talking about like those old play styles, those old theories, but they're also incorporating the newer heroes, right? We've got to talk about Lago here because when Ace has had his hands on this hero.
Yeah, I gotta give a shout out to production because they cooked on this one. But like you're saying, they've got the new stuff too. Ace, look at this. Look at what Lago will do to Riddy's hero pool. He's sucking the Ringmaster so hard, he's even starting to fry. This guy, Riddy's will have to pay attention to what's going on in this game because Ace on the Largo, he's gonna sing those tunes and he's gonna lick his hero pool.
I mean, you just dispel it for days. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, of course, Ace is becoming one of the better offlane Lago players. He's doing exceptionally well. One little critique might be the balance
critique?
Yes.
Please
if
go.
I may. Am I allowed?
You may.
You may.
Mother, may I?
Thank you very much. I feel like Ace is a very strong Lago player, but because it's such a new hero, the ceiling of Lago is so high that the pro players still haven't, mastered the heroes. Like we're seeing very good play, but I still feel like there's still room to grow. There's like managing the use of your Rhapsody to then go for the lick, to then reset, go back for Rhapsody. Like you can do so much more on the hero, but again, Liquid, one of the best Lago licking teams in the game.
Oh my god.
Amen.
Can't spell Liquid without Liquid next time.
Oh, it's true!
Yo, give me that.
I mean, you can. Liquid literally don't have a K in their name.
You're thinking way too deep.
Stop that. Just
Sorry, my bad. I'm gonna. Apparently, everyone else can offer critiques, but not me. Instead, I'll just talk about the fact that maybe Ace getting the Lago, we've hyped it up. Boxi, his melee position forwards, but what we're really overlooking on this side of Liquid is Nisha, and just how uncontested it feels like he's been in that mid lane.
It really has, and I think we looked at some of their past games, and for almost all of their recent games, he has had a favorable matchup, or at worst, an even one. And I think going into this matchup, while I think Nisha is probably a more consistent and dominant player than Niku, I would say on average, I think there is a slight mix-up in this best of 5, because I think Niku is actually someone who's willing to counterpick him. I think the past couple of mid players he's played against are very much, we're just going to draw, we're like, it's whatever, shmeep shop. But Niku, you heard it in his interview last night, he said, I'm going to smash Nisha tomorrow. And while he may be meaning a little bit, I think the mentality is very, very good. And I think actually trying to stick it to him and say, you're going to play hard lanes tomorrow, or we're going to play contentious lanes that I can actually beat you in. I love that mentality, and I think it's really important against Liquid, because if you give this guy a free lane, you know what happens.
That's why I'm so excited for this series, because of course, team versus team, but in the mid lane matchup, the way that Niku was drafting, he tried picking a Bristle into a Beast, it didn't work out. Like, what other ideas does he have to try and play into Nisha? Because Nisha is like, it's a Lesh or a Storm or a Puck. Like, you kind of know the style of hero coming. Maybe Niku has cooked up an idea. So game 1, game 2, Na'Vi can kind of go a bit more creative to try and test it, and then they might recalibrate themselves if it doesn't go out. But I am really excited to see like what is in play for the grand finals for them.
Yeah, we've had a lot of celebration around Liquid, them making it to a grand finals in what feels like almost an eternity. It's not that long, but it has been a while. Of course, yesterday as well, we had Mickey and Boxi celebrate their 1000th win as a duo, but there's another duo that we haven't really given the limelight on, and that is Ace and Tofu.
I guess, when did it actually start? Was it what team was that? It's like so many years, like 5-6 years ago, so I don't even know.
Like the stack started with Misery. I think we were called Hellbear Smashers at first, where was also the first pro team for me, and I was like trying to get in, playing tryouts and like be with the team, and he gave me a shot, and also supposed to play 5, even though I was a post 4 player back then, and it was laning with Ace, and like I knew his name before from pro, but he wasn't at the ladder bot at that time because he was also at like some break before that and was teamless also. And I don't know, I was like just a new guy back then, and I was like asking,
I had no idea who you were.
If he wants to play like some
know.
duo queue to like, I don't know, get to know each other better and play. And then from scrims and play, I don't know, we just like started playing games together every day, and that like kind of clicked right from the get-go.
Because I remember I got invited by Misery at this time, and I wasn't really planning to like really like try hard in pro at that point. I kind of just wanted to chill. But I got the invite, I'm like, okay, whatever. I have this, I might as well just try it a little bit for fun. And I didn't even know who he was. But then we played a bit together, and I don't know, it was a pretty good journey. Like, it was actually fun, it was nice. So it was like a lot of motivation, and then, I don't know, we click well, and that's kind of how it started. And like, we play at the evenings as well, and like other games and shit. Yeah.
And fast forward is like, I don't know, like 5 years by now.
Yeah, that's right.
They're just such a funny duo where it's like you put them to interview each other and they're like, I actually don't really know this guy, but they know each other really well.
Yeah, that's classic. It's classic guy friendship.
Yes.
You're like, you know everything about their favorite Dota hero and this and that and the other, but like,
And
what's your
that's
birthday? How old
Yeah,
are
I'm
you?
like, what's that full name? No idea.
Where are you from? I don't know. So, I think it's one of those.
Classic.
Yeah, it is.
You're going to talk about the important things, you know, and we're going to talk about something else important. When it comes to Na'Vi and Liquid versing against each other in a grand final, is their coaches. We haven't talked about it at all, but CY and Blitz have a very long-running history of grand finals against each other. And Quinn, you could give us the insight. How single-handedly is it advantageous to CY against Blitz?
Well, I believe we were 5-1 against Liquid. Now, the tournament they won, we don't need to mention what tournament that was. Okay. But before that...
We won't talk about that one.
Yeah, we won't talk about that one. But before that, we're 5-0. And CY is very, very confident in grand finals. I think he is a very, very good drafter. He is the one clicking the buttons for the team. And I think his prep is very good. He's very confident in his ideas. And I think also, you heard it in Niku's interview, I think they believe in him a lot. I think he's someone who's very good at sort of binding his team together and being someone that people believe in. And so I think it's very good for them that he is drafting for this finals.
I mean, it's also that they don't really talk about, but CY entry to coaching was with gaming, right? So you enter as gaming coach, you then of course then win a lot of stuff together, and then your next job after that is joining Na'Vi. So for him as well, it's like a true test as a coach. Like after gaming, can you bring another team up to be lifting trophies to get them to a grand final? Is already very impressive, but I think there's already kind of that thing where this could be the start of lifting many more teams up.
For sure. CY has added a lot Blitz as well, long running with his team on Liquid as well. And whilst we love talking about them so much, we really just want to get to talk about Dota. And so we're going to begin our grand final with a Game 1 draft. Well, a best of 5, we're all very familiar with at this point in time in the Blast Slam 6 format. But at the end of this best of 5, either Na'Vi or Liquid will be lifting that trophy. And so you want to get off on the right foot here for a game number 1. And so banning out Nature's Prophet, I'm surprised I'm even saying that hero in the first phase ban. Nature's Prophet, Jakiro, and Ursa is what Na'Vi takes out. Liquid right now taking out the more stable, or I should say the more constant bans, Treant and Batrider.
So Na'Vi, of course, banned out Jakiro and Ursa in this position yesterday against Shandex, but they banned Viper instead of Nature's Prophet. I could see an argument for Na'Vi taking Nature's Prophet away because of how static they can sometimes feel, the fact that the supports don't want to get teleported on, the pacing, but it's also a hero that Liquid hasn't been rushing towards. This isn't a TI draft where Liquid's if Prophet's available, we're picking it every game. So there clearly has to be some reasoning and some rationale behind it for future picks, but the Jakiro and the Ursa, we praised it a lot yesterday. But yeah, it is enabling Viper to potentially enter the next phase.
Yeah, I mean, I think this Ursa ban is also really interesting because it was being banned first phase last series because of the Underlord, right? It became super high priority in that specific tournament or in that specific series. I don't know if that's going to be the case in this series, and Liquid might have a better answer than Yandex did for that hero, especially with Razor still in the pool. So I'm curious to see how that priority works. If Liquid does leave the Razor, then Na'Vi will take it, and Liquid can't take the Underlord. So that's what they're thinking about right now. And oh, okay, I forgot that Shadowfiend's still in the pool.
Out of the trifecta of heroes, SF is definitely the upper one. I think he's good against both of them, so makes a lot of sense. I like that you're also taking out the faster paced heroes that you guys already mentioned with the Nature's Prophet and the Jakiro.
I'm a bit surprised they banned the Viper of all that trio, but they are going to do an SF Razor trade. I think generally SF would be considered good against Razor, but it's not some super black and white matchup, I think, by any means. This is relatively... I think because Razor's such a strong hero right now, it's quite... Both heroes are good.
I mean, it really depends on kind of the support duos. Is Razor laning into the Shadowfiend? Does Shadowfiend have a Tusk or a Clockwork to utilize to kind of lock down for the Razors? And then if Razor isn't playing into Shadowfiend, are you buying auras and playing on a quicker timing while Shadowfiend's still needing a bit more farm, right? So there is kind of a back and forth between it. Liquid being in second pick will decide whether Razor goes potentially at the end of the draft, but yeah, I think both teams are going to be pretty happy with how they've opened up the draft so far.
I mean, so because I like the Razor a lot, especially from second pick. Like you guys said, you can flex him in a lot of lanes. And while you don't have the best one-to-one matchup, I think SF hates being collapsed on in those. So if you have offlane Razor, other heroes can come to you, or if you put Razor mid, you end up picking some offlane Primal Beast, what have you. Just lanes that you can just be very obnoxious to this hero, that he doesn't have this stable first 7, 8 to 9 minutes. So I think both teams are probably quite happy with their openers here.
Yeah, and Na'Vi, they realize that Boxi has so many of these melee 4 positions. Other teams has kind of utilized this second phase of bans to take away a Tusk and a Clock, not respecting the Earth Spirit, and then of course Boxi finds another one to kind of fill that void. So yeah, Na'Vi not wasting any bans on Boxi as of yet.
No, I fully agree with that. The concept of banning heroes whenever the's just another random replacement is very crap. I think a lot of teams get baited into it.
Yep.
So I totally agree.
Yeah. But they go for the Beastmaster ban.
I mean, it would make the most sense, for Liquid, you could just open up, with insert Boxi melee 4 hero, because then, again, if you lane with Razor, you're pretty happy with most of them, whether it's a Clock or a Tusk. If he's somewhere else, you can also always gank for him, so that's also kind of nice.
Do you look towards maybe banning out a mid laner, start chipping away at the hero pool of Nisha instead of looking at support? Oh, they just do Centaur instead.
So Na'Vi will close out the phase in this second phase, and the way that Niku does draft, I feel I don't think it matters, because if Liquid wants to open up their mid pick here, you then can just hard counter it.
Yeah, I think they're banning stuff that is either flex or just comfort heroes for Liquid.
Yeah.
Both heroes are also good against Shadowfiend. And I think Na'Vi has sort of taken the route of, we're not going to try to ban the signature heroes, I think, per se, for Liquid, aside from the Furion. We're just you're going to pick your heroes, we're going to pick ours, and we're going to play Dota. because I think it is a bit difficult right now with the hero pool that Liquid has to actually ban them out. And so I think it is correct to take the approach of, we're going to ban heroes for the game specifically, we're going to ban for our heroes, and we're going to just go to toe-to-toe with you because we can't actually ban you out. And there's that Huskar Interesting. I mean, that begs the question, what is Na'Vi going to counter it with, right? We saw them massively prioritizing the hero yesterday. They banned the Ursa probably for it, and now it's here again. So have they thought about it more? Do they have an answer for it? Do they think Shadow Fiend is good against it? There's a lot of questions around this hero because it is very powerful, and I think Ace is probably the best Underlord.
And Shadow Demon is still in the pool. Being able to throw kind of, you know, you've got a purge on either Razor or Underlord, it's going to feel quite good. Eventual breaks down the line, just slowing up, but it could just make your draft a little bit too slow in the early game against Liquid. That's something that we need to remind you, right? Liquid is the team that is just better in the early game than Na'Vi. They're a lot more aggressive, even though there's kind of, I think, one game in Na'Vi best of 5 yesterday that they kind of showed it through the Huskar, but kind of on average, Liquid just has better pacing early on.
I would prefer the SF, I think, to maybe just be straight up as a carry. I think he has an okay matchup against Underlord, like about as good as it can be. You're good against the Razor. And I would prefer a mid hero, I think, who's a little more mobile than just putting the SF mid where like Underlord can gate on you. I think you don't really enjoy ganking this guy. So I would look for Na'Vi to maybe pick a +5 that helps the SF lane. Like whether it's perhaps an Undying, I think, could work.
I think you want strong rune fighting stuff, whatever it is. Because you've already got Underlord on Liquid, which means your draft is actually going to be a little bit slower. Underlord is a pretty slow hero generally. Yeah. He farms up quite a bit of items. So to me, this looks like already a very mid-centric game where Liquid hasn't picked either of the supports. They're going to pick strong rune fighting ones, and I think Na'Vi needs to be able to fight back.
Okay, so Na'Vi picking up the Disruptor. I think my slight hesitation is with Razor potentially going thrown into mid lane. Like you buy one aura, Underlord buys the other aura, and then you don't really care about static storm on this. You just dump them all down and you survive through it with a pipe and a crimson to protect you from magic and then right click. So yeah, but Na'Vi, they are going very much, we want to be in your face. Tiny, be it 4 or mid, hopefully 4 position. They all want to find kills in laning phase.
I mean, maybe there's a world where they like the Disruptor, because generally when you look at Boxi's pool, it is like a melee 4 pool, which they don't mind Disruptor as much, but I think when you have a double melee lane against like 2 counter picks, you can sometimes have like a super strong, I think, safe lane. Maybe they want to play with this. I will say for now, the Tiny SF Disruptor, it worries me a little bit, but it depends a lot on like the follow-up, because Disruptor needs pace. He wants lanes he can play with, lanes he can go to where you can collapse. But I think Liquid for now also, they have quite good heroes at like holding their own ground.
Yeah, they're very robust, and Tiny Disruptor together. If you're not snowballing, now you have these 2 heroes that need to kill. If they're not getting kills, they're not getting gold, the map's not developing, and it can feel very stale and static. And now you're playing against 2 saves. Like he mentioned, you're playing against the auras. Like, I think already from these heroes, the clock is on Na'Vi that you need a good early game, you need some snowball, and you need actually to make them bleed on the map.
Yeah, and that's of course going to come either from Nico on the mid lane, and then the off lane. They're kind of the next 2 picks available. And for off lane, I'm trying to think what PMA can go to be a bit disruptive, but you're playing into potentially a Razor or a counter pick. So I don't think you can really rely on PMA being like the fix to this. Of course, Niku, that's now kind of gonna take the pressure.
I mean, what pick do you go for here as Na'Vi? I feel like you do see the double melee. I think Underlord is kind of like hard a lot of the times.
Off lane, you know?
Yeah.
All right. I mean, this to me fits their draft. Like you picked Tiny Disruptor. I think you can't go back and like even it out really. I think you're kind of committed to the bit and that you need the snowball. And I think Phoenix offlane is very explosive. It is so not something people play against very often, and so I think you won't have as good of an understanding of laning against this hero as you will against other heroes. And if you die one time in lane against this hero, he gets his urn, like the game can collapse to a ridiculous degree. And Liquid's heroes are all really bad against Phoenix. Like they can't kill this egg at all. They need attack speed, all of these heroes to function. And so I think it's a pretty cool Phoenix game, and I think PMA is kind of a specialist on this hero.
Yeah, also I like Phoenix a lot against saves. Like let's say you start the fight with some Tiny and you just drop the egg. Like if people get, you know, disrupted or snowball saved under an egg, well, they're straight up coming to an egg that is even closer to exploding, still keeping you there in the area. So I like this a lot, because they needed like these other heroes they can play through, and like Quinn mentioned, they don't really kill the egg. It's also a super good Sunray game, at least for now. You know, you have Underlord, Razor, they're kind of tanky heroes, so I like what Na'Vi are doing here.
But in regards to the carry picks for Liquid, let's say you do put the Razor mid, then there's still like Weavers and potential range heroes that Mickey can pick up to Again, lane's not going to be good at all, but I'm
Yep.
talking like once you sort of get into the mid game, the egg's not a problem. You got Shadow Demon with the shard for the cleanse, so then you can get rid of the fire spirits.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of, does Liquid want to respect the laning of Phoenix and pick a real strong laner, or do you want to play for the, let's just delete the egg and this core can never really play the game because you're just in a bad, one-to-one matchup.
Yeah, I mean, the cleanse is definitely an important point. Like, Phoenix in the mid game, like going toward the late game, can already be a little bit dicey pending. So if you have ways to purge off all of his garbage, then his impact can fall off some. That's where I think you need to rely on the Shadow Fiend in this potential last pick. But Nisha or Mickey will have the guaranteed last pick, so they'll have that extra counter pick up their sleeve still, which can change some dynamics.
Yeah. Then do ban Gyrocopter. To be fair, if you put Tusk into 5 with Drinking Buddies, just keep flacking the wave, then it would have been hard for Phoenix to kind of just dive underneath the tower. So that's another option as well. Liquid just finds like a wave shoving carry.
Coddle carry.
I don't know how to respond to that.
I was going to say that was a real hit with the audience here.
I feel like Coddle carry is like some Navi stuff, It's some CY cooking up some Pugna carry, some Coddle carry. Which we do not really want to see.
Which team do you want to win this best of 5, sorry?
I'm an unbiased caster. Well,
Very
analyst.
unbiased.
Yes.
I am normally very unbiased, but I'll be honest, I'm actually, I'm leaning Na'Vi. I actually, for the first time in my life, I actually want Na'Vi to do it. Niku Ember.
This is an okay Ember game. I would say it's good against Razor, Tusk, and Shadow Demon. It's generally pretty bad against Underlord because Ember is sort of mid-range poking damage. Underlord gives you all that HP regen, and then of course the classic Pipe and Crimson. So it's a mixed bag, but it is very good with Shadow Fiend. And I think when you have Shadow Fiend in your team, you need to enable him with lockdown, with catch, so he can actually get these right clicks off. The hero is a hero that needs help. He doesn't provide all of that for himself.
Let me see. What is there? I mean, I'm pretty sure you can put Razor mid against Ember, right? If you want. It's not like a bad matchup at all.
Oh, it's good.
Yeah, I think for carries there's like Weavers. Maybe for mid. I mean, what do we like mid against Ember? Maybe there's like Slardars, but I think Phoenix is quite annoying for this hero.
Slaughter is okay. I don't think it's anything crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the best ones are already banned, like Huskar Viper, Batrider, Beastmaster.
Yeah, and we're not really